At this time, recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Doyle, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I've been in Congress long enough that to see a hearing called Rising Gas Prices. This is, deja vu all over again. We go through this from time to time, and sometimes listening to my friends talk about the Obama administration, I feel like I'm living in an alternative universe. That somehow there's some magic wand that Newt Gingrich is going to wave, and we're going to have $2.50 a gallon gasoline. I think it's time we just stop BSing the American people. In Pittsburgh, people I represent have highly refined BS meters, and they're going off loud and clear with all this talk about gasoline prices. Can we just agree on one thing? A barrel of oil that's produced in Venezuela costs the same amount as a barrel of oil that comes out of the ground in Texas. It's a world commodity. We don't control the price. We don't control the price. People seem to think in this country that if you get oil out of American soil, that somehow we get a discount on it. Well, it's not Americans' oil. Once an oil company buys that lease, it's Exxon's oil. It's their oil, and they're going to sell it for the best price they can get it. Now, that's just a fact of life. And if most of the price of a gallon of gasoline is the cost of the crude, then it is what it's going to be. It's a world market. People talk about natural gas. Natural gas isn't priced on the world market. Okay, it's $2.50 an MCF here. It's not what it's selling for in other parts of the country, which is why we'd like to export some of the excess natural gas so that there can be better profit margins, and we have the supply to do that. But let's quit BSing the American people that there's some magic wand or some policy that Congress or any president, Democrat or Republican, can do to affect the price of a world price commodity. We are a net exporter of gasoline last year. The price of gasoline didn't go down. We can produce all the oil we want in this country, and all the cartel over there has to do is turn the spigot down a little bit, and they'll keep the price wherever they want to keep the price. So let's just quit BSing the American people that there's some way to control the price of a barrel of oil, and if we drill more in this country, that somehow it gets cheaper. I mean, if you want to talk about let's not be dependent on buying it elsewhere, and you want to increase the supply domestically, that's a valid statement. I mean, you can talk about that. But let's not talk about it in the context of prices of gasoline. You talk about the price of gasoline in Europe being $10 a gallon. They put taxes on top of their gasoline. The oil isn't more expensive over in Europe. They put tax on it so people will drive smaller cars. They use mass transit. They use trains. We built the interstate highway in America. We love our automobiles. Okay, we're different than over in Europe. There's not going to be $10 a gallon gasoline in the United States of America. Let's just quit making the American people believe there's some fix to this. This young man's hit the nail on the head. What they want from us and from the president is some vision and some leadership about the future. The future of our country is to get us off this addiction to oil, to start to transition to natural gas vehicles and eventually to battery technology where we don't use any fossil fuel to power a car. When we got a battery that will take a car 400 miles before you have to recharge it, that's going to change the whole world. That's going to change our policy in the Middle East, and that's going to allow us to quit sending young men and women like Mr. Breen overseas to fight for all this oil that's so precious to us. That's what the American people want from us, some visionary leadership from their president and their Congress, not this constant BS that there's somehow you can make gasoline $2.50 a gallon before the presidential election in November. So let's just quit this kind of talk, and let's be real with the American people, and let's talk about how we invest in the future for our kids and our grandkids to make a difference. There's a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time to plant a tree is today. What this Congress ought to be talking about is what we can do today for generations 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now so that our grandkids aren't sitting in a congressional hearing room having the same conversation that we had in 1970, that we have in 1980, that we have in 1990, when these prices start to fluctuate up and down. That's what the American people need from us. Well, I just took 5 minutes on my soapbox, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry about that. I'd like one question if one witness can answer. I do have a concern about these refineries in eastern Pennsylvania shutting down. Pittsburgh uses a special blend of gas in the summertime that's not made anywhere else that I'm aware of except at these 3 refineries near Philadelphia, and they're about to close. I'd like to ask Mr. Drebna, the refinery person, is there any other refineries that make that kind of gas currently, or is there a refinery that could ramp up to make that kind of gas to meet the needs of some of the communities in the Northeast and specifically in western Pennsylvania that are going to be in a bad situation if these 3 refineries in eastern PA absolutely do shut down?
The answer to your question is no, there are no other refineries in the immediate area that can make the 7.2 pound gasoline. It's the summertime. It's summertime gasoline. Now, I understand just recently as yesterday, Congressman Doyle, the Pennsylvania legislature passed a bill that would lift that 7.2 and go to a 9.0 RVP. It wouldn't be summer gasoline. I understand the governor probably will sign that. The problem being is the EPA is going to have to bless it. And that's just that. The reason why there's that gasoline there is that it's Pittsburgh, my hometown, by the way, did not need to go all the way to the more expensive RFG, reformulated gasoline. So over time, it was a better deal for the folks in western Pennsylvania. You're right with the shutdown, the unfortunate shutdown of refineries and all the heartache that comes with it. But if we can start now, because we got to get that stuff into the pipeline by probably May.
Yep.
So if we could start now and get EPA to help the state of Pennsylvania, to help those refineries in Ohio and West Virginia to get that gasoline there, it'll be fine.